Hi, everybody. The right to vote is one of the most fundamental rights of any democracy. Yet for too long, too many of our fellow citizens were denied that right, simply because of the color of their skin. 50 years ago this week, President Lyndon Johnson signed a law to change that. The Voting Rights Act broke down legal barriers that stood between millions of African Americans and their constitutional right to cast a ballot. It was, and still is, one of the greatest victories in our country's struggle for civil rights. But it didn't happen overnight. Countless men and women marched and organized, sat in and stood up for our most basic rights. For this, they were called agitators and un-American. They were jailed and they were beaten. Some were even killed. But in the end, they reaffirmed the idea at the very heart of America, that people who love this country can change it. Our country is a better place because of all those heroes did for us. But as one of those heroes, Congressman John Lewis, reminded us in Selma this past March, there is still work to be done. 50 years after the Voting Rights Act, there's still too many barriers to vote and too many people trying to erect new ones. We've seen laws that roll back early voting, force people to jump through hoops to cast a ballot, or lead to legitimate voters being improperly purged from the rolls. Over the years, we've seen provisions specifically designed to make it harder for some of our fellow citizens to vote. In a democracy like ours, with a history like ours, that's a disgrace. That's why, as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, I'm calling on Congress to pass new legislation to make sure every American has equal access to the polls. It's why I support the organizers getting folks registered in their communities. And it's why, no matter what party you support, my message to every American is simple. Get out there and vote. Not just every 4 years, but every chance you get. Because your elected officials will only heed your voice if you make your voice heard. The promise that all of us are created equal is written into our founding documents. But it's up to us to make that promise real. Together, let's do what Americans have always done. Let's keep marching forward, keep perfecting our union, and keep building a better country for our kids. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend. Well, I want to welcome back the Democratic governors to the White House. It's wonderful to see you. Before I get started, a couple of orders of business. First of all, I want to recognize that Governor Hickenlooper of Colorado has had a very good year. First he gets married. Then the Broncos win the Super Bowl. Now he gets to spend the weekend with all of you. He's got the trifecta, but congratulations. Congratulations. I want to thank, first of all, every single one of you for all that you do around the country. As Democrats, we believe that every American should have the opportunity to work for a good wage and benefits and to be able to advance themselves and their families. And you've helped our businesses create over 14 million new jobs over the past 6 years. You've helped cut the unemployment rate down from 10% down to 4.9%. As the Affordable Care Act has taken effect, nearly 18 million Americans have gained health care coverage, and that's thanks to strong efforts by all of you, and I very much appreciate all of that. Law, and we are very proud of him for that. In Minnesota, Governor Dayton has proposed providing 6 weeks of paid parental leave for state employees. We have been able to work at the ground level on all the issues that people care deeply about. For example, Governor Sumlin is about to sign Vermont's first paid sick days leave law, and we are very proud of him for that. In Minnesota, Governor Dayton has proposed providing 6 weeks of paid parental leave for state employees. So from raising the minimum wage to expanding early childhood education, to expanding how we provide computer science education to our kids, to helping workers retrain for the jobs of the future, to helping them plan for retirement, your states have been leading the charge for change. Get in the way of getting stuff done when you're a governor. There's one thing in particular I'm going to make a focus this year, and that's protecting everybody's right to vote. As I said, when I visited my old state capital, Springfield, Illinois, The job of our democracy is to make it easier, not make it harder, for our citizens to be able to vote. And we need to be modernizing voting to reflect the way that people live today. In Illinois, a new law goes into effect this year that expands early voting, and that's going to allow folks to register and vote on Election Day. Illinois was following the good lead of the Browns, Governor Kate Brown of Oregon and Governor Jerry Brown in California. Last year, their states became the first states to adopt automatic voter registration. We're really proud to be partners with you. And my hope is that this is about more than just creating economic opportunity. It is about preserving the rights and opportunities of generations of Americans that have fought so hard to secure and broaden our democracy. It's about making democracy as good as it can be. So I just want to urge all of you to make sure that folks aren't being disenfranchised and that they're able to participate in the democracy the way our founders intended. Have a good weekend, Pool. They deserve it. Right now, in 2015, 50 years after Selma, there are laws across this country designed to make it harder for people to vote. As we speak, more such laws are being proposed. Meanwhile, the Voting Rights Act, the culmination of so much blood, so much sweat and tears, the product of so much sacrifice in the face of wanton violence, the Voting Rights Act stands weakened. Its future subject to political rancor. How can that be? The Voting Rights Act was one of the crowning achievements of our democracy, the result of Republican and Democratic efforts. President Reagan signed its renewal when he was in office. President George W. Bush signed its renewal when he was in office. 100 members of Congress have come here today to honor people who are willing to die for the right to protect it. If we want to honor this day, let that 100 go back to Washington and gather 400 more and together pledge to make it their mission to restore that law this year. That's how we honor those on this bridge.